Hey, welcome to another Whiskey Wednesdays with Thaddeus and Evan of On Purpose Media. We have good conversations, good people have, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Today we have a very special guest. Oh, here we go. We'll do
Yeah,
the cheers.
cheers.
Let's
Do
do
the
cheers.
cheers. All
There
right.
we go.
Cool.
Today we have a very special guest and one of my dear old friends and one of my original mentors back when I was with the Cutco Corporation, Mr. Trent Booth. Trent is a thought leader and I would even argue recruiting disruptor within the vector world.
Strong.
Um, mm,
I like that.
you like that?
It's like lightning hit the tip of my penis just right there when you said it. It was amazing. It was really good. And we're off. Here we
We're
go.
off to the
There we
races.
go.
Zero filters and zero fucks given,
That is
apparently.
a Step Brothers reference, by the way. We're just getting started rolling. Getting right at it.
Just getting rolling. Oh, but I mean, dude, what you have done for Vector has just been absolutely incredible. I loved how you've taken this role of recruiting manager and just blown up with it and massively impacted a tremendous amount of people. We're going to dive into some leadership topics, some fun conversations. We'll have some good laughs. But I got to start by sharing something real quick.
Nice. Oh, it's the picture. Is this the? I know what this is.
You know exactly
I
what
did.
this
This
is.
is one of our favorite moments. It's one of my
One of
favorite
the
moments ever. Like not just with you, but like it's a great.
One of the lesser known skills of Mr. Trent Booth is his sultry playing of the bongo drum.
Oh,
And
that is fantastic.
oh my God, it was an epic, epic moment at whitewater rafting in Golden, BC. And the only thing sweeter than the bongo drum playing was the dismount afterwards. It was an epic moment, one that I will never forget. Hence the reason I'm laying on the
I
ground
love
crying
this.
right
I
there.
love this.
What is
But
that from like 2005?
Dude, this is
2009.
old school.
2009
Yeah.
looks like a
Yeah.
background people of 2005. I was actually kind of looking to see if I was in the background somewhere.
You might
This
have
was
been there.
This was
Yeah.
pre being able to upload pictures to Facebook from your phone. This
Right.
was a straight
Right.
digital camera.
Which I'm
So
grateful for to a certain extent. I'm grateful.
You know, that could very well be me in the background with my hand up. I'm just saying, just throwing it out
It
there.
could
It
be.
might be. It might
Could
be.
be. Oh my
Bongo.
God.
Now I'd never played bongos before that. Like I would say I'm musical, but like that would be my first time on the bongos.
You nailed it.
I made love to that bongo there. That was strong.
You know who? You know what would be a great cameo right now is if we could get John Berghoff to say, "Hey, come on in with your bongos right now, and you two could have a bongo, and we could just play it."
Just
But
get at it. I still
I
have
would
that
have.
shirt. I still have that sweater, by the way. That's my Where's Waldo Ottawa Senators throwback
I was
sweater.
about to say it
I
looks
still
like an
own
Ottawa
it.
Senators jersey.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We've lived down here, originally Canadian. So I grew up in Vancouver. Well, it wasn't really Vancouver. I grew up in Ladner, which is a suburb of Vancouver. But I've lived in South Jersey outside Philadelphia since 2004. And I bounced around all over Canada. But we had two of our kids and we were married and I ran an office out of Ottawa. So I became like a Sanders fan. I'm like, you know what? I've been a Canucks fan. I've been a Flames fan. I've been a Habs fan. Never cheered for the Toronto Maple Leafs because it's wrong. But
Yeah, never.
I'm like, just plant the flag with the Sens, and you just got to stick with the team, buddy. So that was easy at the time because they were winning championships. Well, no, they were winning the league, but not championships.
I was gonna say.
You know, we had Alfredson and Spezza. It was a nice little run. Hossa. Um, but even now, my son's room is painted like Senators, red, black, and white with some gold trim. And we live in South Jersey, and like there's like 3 Senators fans down here outside Philly. But we've maintained that one still. So that and the Team Canada gear, you know, representing it, hanging out with my Canadian brothers on a very auspicious day here in the United States. Man, things are a little crazy down here. So I'm glad to be talking to some brothers that aren't crazy.
Yeah,
Glad
well,
to
let's
not be on
hope,
CNN
let's
right
hope
now.
not. Yeah.
Or Fox for that matter, you know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
It has
I
been a rather dicey time down there. And actually, I was even thinking, I was like, man, I should just start this by saying something like, you know, on this amazing day, I'd love to get your thoughts on when the Senators might win the cup again. So,
You know,
for
we
the
made
first
some
time.
nice moves. I mean, we really did bottom out. We've had some rough moments, as you guys recall, like things spoken in like a cab just like a year ago. As I was just like, dude, we traded Carlson. Like, are we at bottom yet? Like, the owner's the worst. Like, it's
Just
just been
terrible.
a rough patch for Sens fans. And I literally said to myself, I was like, I'm not going to get any sympathy here in Flyers country where they are used to disappointment, right? I'm not going to get any love from that group. So I was like, you know what? This is where being a fan matters. I'm not just going to cut bait because I don't know anybody on my team. I'm not going to cut bait of my Senators. And then we picked up some nice kids, man. We got the German kid coming in. It's going to be a good little run. Kachuk is legit. I don't think it's next year. No. But, listen, you give us a 10-year run here, a little build-up, maybe not that long even.
Oh, if you're anything like the Oilers, dude. If you're anything like the Oilers, which is, who I cheer for, you're going to be perpetually in the basement in the dark ages. So,
I was actually born in 74 and was born in Edmonton before we moved to outside. So I was a Gretzky fan. And part of the reason was, as a 5-year-old even, I could find the guy wearing 99 on the ice. So
right.
My first memories was like, okay, I know who that guy is. And then, of course, the cup runs of, 1981 through 85. I mean, dude, it's a dynasty that's legit. Gretzky's always going to be my favorite. It's going to be my boy. So I still have a soft spot for the Edmonton Oilers for sure, man. Want to see you guys get a cup before we do for sure.
It's funny. So there is a little bit of delay on our live. So Rob Chung, I don't know if you know, yeah, you know Chung. Evan, you know Chung. Yep. He just said, he asked when Sens laughing will win the cup. Rolling on floor laughing emoji 3 times. So Godspeed, my friend. Godspeed.
Here's the bottom line is I still celebrate the meltdown in Beantown. I mean, that is a Senators holiday there. Anytime the Leafs get up, 3-0 in a best of 7 series and then lose, I'm going to celebrate that. That's going to be a nice moment for us. So
yeah,
you're a fan when you experience like great joy at your like nemesis losing. And again, I live in Eagles country here, man. So it's a big deal, like the Cowboys Eagles thing, man. It's hard to articulate, but as Rough Riders fans, you guys know what it is to suffer. Absolutely. We also know what it's like to have a good run,
Well, dude, I'm a Riders fan. All I have is suffering.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, if you guys could only count.
Eskies had a good run in the '80s, man. That's real.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's right. Edmonton hangs on to everything from the '80s. Let's just put it that way.
City of Champions.
City of Champions
still
from.
I saw it a couple years ago. It's still up, man.
I don't know why it hasn't been a City of Champions in 30 years.
Oh my God. All right.
I used to live there, so I lived there. Full disclosure, I was there for 4 years, and I moved to Calgary 11 years ago. And I always say that if you could actually take the people of Edmonton and put them into the city of Calgary, you'd have one hell of a city, because the Edmonton folk, they're a little bit more chill, a little bit more relaxed. I think it's more the blue collar nature, and Calgary, a little bit more white collar, a little bit more high strung. Although they've been knocked down a few pegs with oil prices going into the cracker.
It's interesting because I moved to Calgary in '91, like just after really the Flames won the cup, and which was '89. But so I moved there right afterwards, and Calgary's exploded. And the Calgary I moved to in '91 is wildly different than the Calgary of today. I mean, some of that certainly is, the oil, boom of the the late '90s and 2000s there, but it's become super transient too. Like, so if you were a Calgarian back in the '80s and you see Calgary today, you're like, yeah, this isn't my city anymore. Like, like so many people have come out from outside of Calgary. It's a different animal altogether. So, kind of lost some of that soul a little bit, but still just such a great town. I took my daughter there for her 16th birthday just a couple years ago, and she loved Calgary. It was in the summer, so I was trying to explain to her. She goes like, well, minus 30. I'm like, you can't be explained what minus 30 Celsius feels like. Like, you can't. Again, growing up in Vancouver, we never got that cold. So my first winter, I was actually at West Edmonton Mall. I was like an idiot. I think I was 16 with my kid brother, and we're trying to smoke a pack of Colts outside the West Edmonton Mall. Smoking outside, like you can even breathe, right? You can't take a normal breath when it's minus 40 because everything freezes, right? But I'm trying to smoke a Colt outside with my hands and I can't strike a match, but minus 40 goes right to your core. Like, exposed flesh freezes in 7 seconds. And it's one thing to know that, and it's another thing to feel that, and yet
you were young and dumb.
You adapt, but we adapt. So like you being in Calgary, you plug your car in, no big deal. Like, you just have fun inside. You run outside, your car's warm, you're good.
Yep.
Yeah, and then all you have to do is just wait for a Chinook if you want the snow to melt, and away you go.
You know, wait a day or two, and it'll be plus 15. It'll be all good to
Exactly.
go. 15 for our American friends. That's about 20. What is that?
No.
15 degrees, 65 degrees. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Come
I had to memorize it. I've done the math down here. There's certain temperatures, though. I'll say, Siri, what is 20 degrees in Celsius? Because I don't know what that is down here. It's one of those weird things where I know what 5 feels like, but I don't know what 20 degrees Fahrenheit feels like, you know.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, makes sense. Well, should we jump into our random question generator here?
I love it.
Let's do it. So I was actually trying to put this onto a side screen. So who wants to go? Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask this to you, Rob Chung. Celsius is greater than Fahrenheit any day of the week, but I'm gonna X out what do you fear is hiding.
Science.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna take out what do you fear is hiding in the dark because I feel that's gonna be a political answer. So we'll just remove that one from the question. So I am going to ask this to you, Trent, just because I think it's a fun question. What is the most embarrassing thing you own?
Most embarrassing thing I own. Oh, okay. Hold on here. Let me think about this one. The most embarrassing thing I own. So it's like it's in the house. Not ever owned. I own it now.
Yes.
Embarrassing thing I own. Dude, I'm struggling here, man. Dude, I've got to have something that I own that I'm just like, I should get rid of that. And I haven't. You know what I'm saying?
I have another pinch hit question if you want one that's a little bit more of a
layup. I'm
struggling.
Okay. Like, yeah,
all right. What is the best?
Here,
hey, no, it's all good, man. It's all good. I did have a layup, so it means I got to find another one. Or you can ask a random question to either Evan or I. What is the best invention of the last 50 years? What is the best invention of the last 50 years? Yes, and also if you are following along, feel free to answer that question for us as well.
Great couple of questions get us kicked off here. I just thought we got to drink and hang out today. Now I got to think, man. But the best invention of the last 50 years, boy, you'd be hard pressed to not say something like medical, like a heart transplant or like insulin. But honestly, when you think about like the airplane, which would be a thing that our generation would completely take for granted. But when you think about the ability to travel the way we can do it now. So in the last 50 years, that's not 50 years. Obviously, that's a little deeper than that. But the reality is commercial travels
totally.
Is in the last real 50, I would say for sure. And the fact that it's prolific and you can get anywhere. So the fact that you can get New York right now to LA in a 6-hour flight, the fact that you can go from Vancouver to Toronto and there's 10 flights today, or at least a half dozen, and you can do it in 6 hours.
Maybe two with COVID, but
a couple touchdowns. If you're going to go on WestJet, you got touchdown 4 times. But the idea is that the fact that you can't. So let me say it this way, because my dad, when we lived in Vancouver, would go on. He was a sales guy, so he would travel, and it'd be like a 2-week trip. Like he'd hit Halifax, and you weren't just doing Halifax and back. You'd hit Montreal, and then you hit Halifax, and you'd hit all these spots. But as a 5-year-old kid, dude, my dad's gone for 2 weeks. You can't wrap your brain around that. You can talk to him on the phone, but let me also say this one here, though, is in the last 10 years, I would say the idea of social media making it so easy for us to connect. So if you think about COVID hitting even 10 years ago, where we don't have something like Zoom or FaceTime is really tweaked up yet, the fact that kids can still go to school right now, the fact that business can still happen. We just had a national sales conference, the Strategic Leadership Conference, SLC is done every year. We just did it virtually. And, guys, it was awesome. Now, we missed not hanging out, having a cocktail, having a couple of yucks and hugging, and there's no bongos. But it was still a pretty great event, and the idea that you could still connect and have an exchange of ideas virtually and not spend $750,000 to do it, right, is actually pretty amazing. So I'm going to double down there. I would say that as much as internet also has some nefarious sides to it, the fact that we can connect like this is amazing. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, 100%. I would actually agree with that in terms of the social media and the connection, because your connections now are so spread out, and you can have these relationships with anyone, and that it was a lot more difficult 10 years ago, certainly. But even us, Evan, we have a mastermind on with a couple of our other associates, and just to be able to have the connection back and forth in that streamlined process is super cool. On the sales side, I will say that Zoom has definitely been a great thing for, for me personally, and I probably any salesperson out there that's doing local appointments, because now when somebody no-shows you, because no-shows are inevitable, right? Guess what? Now you're just sitting in your office, right? You're not out that 15, 20-minute drive, 15 minutes sitting in the coffee shop, the coffee that you bought that you didn't really need, and then the 15, 20-minute drive to wherever you need, right? So you've saved yourself an hour's worth of time that you can actually be more productive on when it comes to the connecting and the exchanging of ideas, and just that flow of information is free flowing. So love it.
I'm the exception to the rule, but you look at behind me, you just see nothing. You cut go vector, but that's not intentional. I'm just doing this because I work there. But you guys have invited me into your home just now. So like legitimately doing business, and I get to see paintings, I get to see certificates, I get to see, it's a window, it's a portal into your house. So the reality is there's an intimacy now when we're meeting via Zoom like this that it's never happened before. Like if I'm a smart sales guy, I can key in on the things that I'm seeing, which we were taught to do as teenagers at Cutco. Just, hey, what do you see that you notice that resonates with you, and talk about that. And the fact that people are doing Zoom all the time, even today I was watching CNN and it's all this coverage, and the one of the big guys up in Pennsylvania, they're interviewing the guy, and it's his bookcase behind him. He's got like a little postman truck there, and like some of the titles can't quite make out the titles, but I'm like, I have that book. That's cool. Like you actually get to see what's going on in their world. It's a very cool time to be alive. And the fact is, like, I'm sure you guys too, these robust portals can actually lead to really great relationships. There's some people I've coached now for 10 years, and we've met once in person or zero on occasion. But the reality is it's very easy for us to kind of forget that we're meeting virtually. We're just, in many ways, kind of transported. Maybe it's even a spiritual thing where we're actually hanging out, communing, and it's all virtual. But I'm really staring at my computer screen in my room.
Oh, man, it's wild. And that's, I mean, the next evolution of that, too, is the VR and AR. Like, what's that going to be like when you can throw on a headset and all of a sudden you're sitting in a conference room with the other 700 people that would have been there for you guys. And you've got, Trent Booth up on stage delivering a keynote from his bedroom, but everyone feels like they're there.
Here's what's interesting, because some guys put like the virtual backgrounds behind them, which is fine. I mean, if you're going to do that, that's great. But I would way rather see your fireplace. 100%. I'd way rather see your kid run by than have your ear being obscured by that freaking whatever your background is. Not to mention it chews up just a ton of bandwidth. I want the stable internet connection rather than having a virtual background.
I don't even think I can. My computer's not even good enough to have a virtual background. I just go distorted.
That's a thing,
I tried.
I guess what I'm driving at is, even in a virtual world, I think that intimacy and having that authentic connection is going to be even more important. So if the AR, if the virtual reality, the VR, helps facilitate that, then I can get there. So, for example, they did a commercial earlier this year where a kid was visiting with his dad in the house he grew up in, and it was all virtual. Like, that's the mind bender where you start to go, whoa, now that's cool. But where that works is that emotional connection of what is real, and the fact that even if you know that, hey, I know I'm in a virtual environment, but it reminds me of what was true and real. The key is that it's the authenticity and the intimacy that matters there.
100%.
Yeah, no, and I like
that
it.
Sounds smart because it felt smart when I said it.
It definitely sounded smart. But you do raise a valid point, and kind of coming into the back end of somebody's house. Like, I share an office with my wife. We're in completely different industries, and luckily, I mean, that's why I went like this. I mean, she sits behind me, right? And we've been doing this for 5 years now in our lifestyle. But sometimes you'll see her, like, even when we're doing our Whiskey Wednesdays, you'll see her walk by, and her head's like, going in and out of the room, right? But that's also the realness of it too, right?
Sure. And there was a time where that was like shunned. We've all seen the English reporter in his office, and his kid rolls in, and the mom's like
trying to pull the kid out backwards by the legs, like, upside down,
just losing. Well, here's what's fun is that at this point, a dog jumping in the frame isn't weird, and actually is like an opportunity. Like, hey, show us your dog. Like, the world has shifted radically. And here's what's interesting is, even, let's say if, not when, but if we get our arms around COVID, I live in the States, we're not nearly as close as you guys are. The point is, things have shifted and can't in some cases go back. So when companies say, okay, we could spend $7,000 a month for that office space, or not, You know what I'm saying? We could spend all this money on the trip or not. Or if we get together, let's still get together, but let's actually not meet. We can actually, if we need to meet, we can disseminate information faster via Zoom, better, maybe even via Zoom. If we're going to meet, it's going to be for relationships and connection will be why we do that. So we might meet less in Salt Lake City. I'm not trying to disparage Salt Lake City. I'm saying you might meet in Cabo instead because we're not actually meeting anymore. We're actually just going to hang out and go deep and play bongos.
Do you think that if you're getting rid of some of that personal, let's go deep and play bongos. I like that. I had the question queued up in my mind. Like, I gotta dive into it. I gotta dive right into it. It's okay, squirrel. All the time happens. To go off of that, like if people are going more and more remote, do you find or do you think that is going to take away from the intimacy and authenticity?
I think it could, but the reality is Simon Sinek made this point early in the pandemic. Like it was an article, if you go and check it out, back in, I'll put it in the show notes maybe afterwards, but back in March, he was like, your meetings weren't as good as you thought. Your meetings weren't as good as you thought. In fact, some of the best moments might have been before the meeting started or during the breaks. That's where the people really connected. If you go to a meeting where the lead person, she or he just talks at us the whole time, that's not intimate either. So I think what's different here is the conversation has to be about connection more than it has to be about what medium that we're connecting in. So the reality is, let me tell a story here, and this has been one of the ways that I try to sell. And hear me right, I would much rather be with you guys and hug and drink the same whiskey. That'd be awesome. But in a world where that's just not happening today,
a local Calgary brand right there, Rupert's Whiskey by Eau Claire Distillery. So strong. There we go.
I'm aware of
yes,
that one.
Yes.
So here's what's interesting. So back in the day, one of my past lives, I was a pastor, and I still do weddings occasionally. And I was doing marriage coaching with this couple. The first time we met live and in person, because they lived an hour away, we did it all via Zoom. First time I met live and in person was the dress rehearsal for the wedding. And she ran up and she gave me a big hug. I was like, hey, I hugged her back. I said, oh, actually, we're just kind of meeting here, aren't we? And she's like, no, I know you. And she did. And I knew her. And it was awesome. I gave the group a big hug, too. It was awesome to connect finally. But we had never met in person. It was all via Zoom like this. So the degree to which you can be authentic and genuine and intimate via this medium here, I think is more the determining factor than is it the medium itself. And I say that, same thing within our church group even now. So we have a group of us that meet every couple times a month because it's hard to get everybody together. But when COVID hit, we met weekly. Why? Well, because even if you're meeting on Zoom, you're not connecting necessarily, right? So we as a group, we started meeting weekly because we could, and it was only an hour. But it was via Zoom like this, and there's no driving involved. It was a quick in and out. But actually what it helped us do is feel connected. So that when we did get back together in person, it was better. There's actually a breakthrough. There's a plateau that we could crash through because of that time we'd actually spent here. One of the guys that I coach, we primarily do it one-on-one and in person, but he's actually the anomaly. Almost everybody I coach is via Zoom. But I'll tell you this, there was actually had a COVID scare at the school. He's like, hey, full disclosure. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to meet. Let's do Zoom this week. Like, you're in quarantine. I'm not going to meet with a mask on. We're going to do Zoom. Why not? And what's interesting is sometimes the topics that we cover in person over a 2-hour lunch are very different. It's a very different meeting than if we meet via Zoom. Sometimes we just cover a lot more ground, a lot more material via Zoom like that. So it's not bad. It's just different. And the reality is, what I love is talking to a couple of guys that get it. They're like, hey, this is here to stay. But there's an entire generation that are like, hey, I'm not really committed to this yet because it might not be a thing soon. I'm like, hey, I'm coaching 50 plus year olds. Like, this is a thing at this point. Like, you probably want to get to know how to connect with people via Zoom.
Yeah. Well, even my brother is a manager for SGI, so a government insurance agency in Saskatchewan. And right before COVID hit, they just leased another building, their 5th one in Regina.
Wow.
And he's like, we don't need it. Like, we have now learned that we can meet in the office 2, maybe 3 days a week and the rest be remote. And people are actually getting more done in less time.
You got it.
Because their kids are there, because they can be more efficient and more focused, because there's other reasons for them to not be working 8 hours a day, but get done 8 hours worth of work.
Has Top Golf made it up to Canada yet? Have you guys heard of this Top
No,
Golf?
I've heard of Top Golf. We've always wanted to check it out with my buddies when we go down to Phoenix.
Dude, it's
but
worth the trip.
we just get too drunk in the pool and can't drive anywhere. So
yes, and so Top Golf is basically, think of like when they hit like midnight bowling, where you've got like neon lights and everything. They gamified bowling and made bowling cool. They've done that with golf. Here's what's interesting though: people who like golf but don't love it love hanging out at Top Golf because you can just have a couple hours, a couple drinks, whatever. You can play Angry Birds with your ball. So even if you suck at golf, you might knock down the virtual building with all the birds on it. What I'm driving at, though, is people are saying, well, do we need an office space? I'm like, that's the wrong question. The question is, what could we do with those resources? So, like, if we've got an office building that's $7,000 a month, that's $94,000 a year real quick, well, that buys a lot of Top Golf memberships, doesn't it? So if we do need to get together, Top Golf has a place where we can hang out, but also it has meeting space, and we could do that. So right now what's happening in the States is that there's a shortage of housing because COVID meant we weren't building, and people are living at home more. So, in fact, some companies I think are even giving stipends. Hey, if we're not paying you to go to the office, we're going to raise your pay a little bit. And some of that can go to internet, some of that can go to whatever office space. But the point being is that that makes people are upgrading their homes now. Like, hey, I got a little more money. I'm going to live. If I'm staying here 24/7, I want a nicer house. Or even entrepreneurs going, I could spend combined, $2,000 a month for office rent and my mortgage, or just all plowed into the mortgage and work out of my house.
Right.
What a cool time to be alive, guys, because we've worked from home for a long time, but people are just kind of getting the idea. What has shifted, I will say this. I'm used to working from home. I'm not used to working from home with 3 teenagers in the house. That's been less awesome. That's been harder to figure out. And by the way, I was like April years old when I discovered that plugging in an Ethernet was better than Wi-Fi. We went and upgraded all of our Wi-Fi, the router, and it wasn't giving me any more speed. I was getting 9 up and down on Wi-Fi because kids playing PS4, watching TV. And then I'm calling to complain. I'm like, what's going on, guys? They go, well, it's plugged in, right? I was like, I plugged in. It went to 900 because I had the Ethernet. I was like, dude. So this is a little PSA, just in case you don't know.
My brother-in-law, they just sold their house and they moved to another one. And he was just looking, like, after we moved the stuff out, he's kind of looking down at the floor and looking at the ground. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm never going to get this Cat 6 cable back, and all the time that I spent wiring it in, because he wanted Cat 6 to be plugged in directly from the house. I'm just like, you've got, bigger things to worry about. Maybe,
dude, it shifted
your next
so much.
house, like...
My son is running a 200-foot Ethernet cable from my router right beside me to his PS4.
Just blue cables through the hallways.
Just blue cable through the hallway downstairs. He's got another one going downstairs into the main room.
So what you're really saying is it's like an episode of Boiler Room.
It's so funny, right? It's so funny.
Oh man,
yeah, that's a good reference right there.
I'm gonna throw you on the spot here, Trent. So as we, part of our Whiskey Wednesdays is we want to obviously help HVAC businesses, and that's our general niche that we work with. We're this close to relaunching this as a different brand, which is super exciting. Putting the finishing touches on the logo. So next week, hopefully, we'll have that up.
Yeah.
So if you were an HVAC, company owner, a business owner, and you had this, advent of Zoom where you can save costs in your office, potentially you can save employee things, you can do better things. How would you as an HVAC owner position yourself with the advent of Zoom to be able to save money to give back to your employees?
What a great question. Actually, one of the companies I do quite a bit of coaching with actually does that type of work. What's interesting is that Zoom, with the advent of Zoom, it's not weird, for example, to be meeting with customers via Zoom. So, for example, especially in Canada, one of the great advantages is like just that distance that you normally have to cover just got a lot closer. So all those dollars that you could be investing into that, here's what I would suggest. Make sure that your employees have good connections, good internet connections. A lot of them are going to be working from home. So if you're going to make a mistake, I would go heavy in terms of stipends to get them that good internet connection. I'd make sure that they have a good device to work with. A phone probably gets it done nowadays, by the way. They probably don't all need Macs or anything like that, but having a good device in their hand definitely allows them to be able to connect not only with you, but also I would encourage them strongly to start meeting with their customers this way. So a lot of times for HVAC, they're like, my air conditioning's not working. I would say, listen, I'm going to schedule a Zoom with our tech at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Now, the tech now can schedule appointments every 15 minutes all morning, as opposed to hours. I mean, 1 per hour, maybe at best. And the guy can go, listen, show me your HVAC outside. Show me what you got going on with the coolant. Show me what's happening there. And he can look at it and go, okay. He can at least assess it. Now, if he still needs to go out, that's one thing. But if he's got 10 of those today, did he just cut that down to 7? Did he cut that down to 3? He has to go see, because with an actual camera and the customer walking them through the house, not just can I see your house, I could see your heater downstairs if we needed to. So that would be one of the areas of opportunity. Is I would encourage not only the techs that are out there doing the work to bone up and get good at this stuff, because that's differentiating them from everybody else. I would be high on making sure that my people are comfortable with that technology and then utilizing that. I mean, it's never been easier to send a picture at the end of the job, especially if we're going to warranty or guarantee the work that we did here. I want to make sure that this work is done well. So one of the companies that we're working with, we're ensuring that the work for quality control purposes, before and after we've got those shots all documented, to make sure that we've got great work done and we can see that. We can kind of sign off on it. But I'm not sure if I'm answering your question here, but the reality is the technology that's available to us, what's beautiful about COVID, I can't believe I just said that, is it's forced us to change. But not some of us, like all of us had to change, and very quickly. So the reality is we've already kind of eaten the crap burger. Like, at least at this point, some of the benefits, some of the silver lining would be, hey, you can get a lot more done with less time with the technology. That not only is it not weird to say to a customer, hey, can you have a Zoom meeting? Because they're all meeting on Zoom right now. Whereas a year ago, hey, if you heard of Zoom, you're apologizing and having a big ask. Whereas right now it's like, hey, in between your meetings, instead of saying, hey, like Comcast down here is the big internet provider, like, hey, we'll be at you sometime between 8 in the morning and 8 at night. I'm like, dude, all day. Now, I'm already here anyway, but that's not great and ideal.
12 hours?
I mean, but if you can actually give a slight window there, because your techs now can schedule 6 people per hour, 4 people per hour, you can get a lot more done here. We can be a lot more productive.
Absolutely. Well, and being your specialty in leadership training, how would you encourage an owner then to utilize the technology to be able to connect with their people and continue to evolve those relationships?
Here's what I love. Your question has so many answers in it, right? So if the goal is to evolve the relationships, many of us aren't thinking like that, right? So what you can do now is have regular recurring meetings that are digital like this. They're virtual. And you can invite the group to come together, because the reality is the genius of your company is in the system. Like, all of your people have the answers. So if you're not meeting with your people, you've got inherent answers that are available, but you're not opening up the gift, right? So if the system has the answers in it inherently, then we just have to get that system together and have the answers emerge. We said this today on a coaching call. I said, we is better than me. So if there's a challenge we're wrestling with, let's get them together and let's have regular, recurring, highly interactive has got to be the key here. Highly interactive meetings that are more of a conversation and less of just a meeting. So if we ask better questions, and the questions that we ask are fatal and take us to great or terrible directions, if we can come up with better questions as a business owner and meet with our people and ask them. So, for example, if you don't know what question to ask, I would start with a simple awareness question. I'd start with a start, stop, keep. Hey, teammates, what are we doing as a company that you feel is so good we should, no matter what changes, we should always keep it? What are we not doing that we could start doing as a company that would improve morale, improve, et cetera? You fill in the blank for us. Open-ended questions. Hey, what's something that we're doing right now that's hurting that relationship? What should we stop? And as much as we can ask that company in that context, that one question, we can ask that in so many different contexts. Hey, what right now are we not doing as a company to make your job easier, to make your job experience that much more fulfilling and satisfying? What are we not doing that we should start? What are we doing right now that is detracting from that if we were to just do less dumb things, by the way? Like, if I just didn't have to jump through that hoop and be like, wow, why are we doing that? You're like, I don't know, it's crazy. Our friend Dave Duran used to say, like, why do we have one-sided doors, like, on all vans? Many vans had openings just on the one side. It's just on the passenger side. It wasn't on the other side. And somebody goes at a meeting like, both sides. And it was amazing. It was amazing, and it got it done. It was an innovation that came from the system, right? So the idea of just asking our people what's going on, what's really happening, and then making adjustments with that. Because the reality is your people have a perspective of what's going on. Now, also in that world, hear me right, not all techs are created equally, not employees are created equally. I would make sure that the one is super quiet actually might have the best idea in the room. So the fact that they're not volunteering it might not mean that they don't have an idea. I'd say, hey, listen, at this point, Thad, I'm going to come over to you. You can pass if you need to, which is always Candace, by the way. But like, yeah, you can pass if you need to. What do you see here? And for that, in the CVI or Core Values Index that we use to measure this, that person who thinks a lot but is afraid of looking foolish goes, hey, what about this? And that one question might change everything.
Mic dropped.
Right? It's just one of those like, whoa, I'm glad I asked. I wouldn't interpret the silence as the fact that they don't have ideas, but the idea of having those guided facilitations. What I would suggest to companies that are, or to owners of companies like that, is if you're not great at facilitating like that, then pay a Sherpa, pay somebody to facilitate that, because the answers that you get there, how many of those do you need a year to revolutionize your business, to start growing exponentially? And then all of a sudden that facilitator or that employee that's under the umbrella, that's a thought leader kind of like you guys, all it takes is one or two of those a career to make a huge difference. And to shift what seems like consulting fees to like, that's an investment into helping us grow and how to get unstuck. And the reality is, you and I both know, if you're having those conversations regularly, there's plenty of gold in the mountains. We just got to go get it. And we're not even talking having to frack, whatever that opinion is. The point is, it's right there. It's right there. We just got to scoop it up. So I would encourage that you would invest not only the dollars, but also the finances. And I would even double down on that. Just because Evan's running the meeting for you doesn't mean you shouldn't be there. By being there, and I don't mean like there and check in like TSN. I mean like there and present. Like, because being there actually brings a lot of weight to that meeting, just by being there. But also allowing that group to inform your thoughts and what directions you're going to take going forward. That is where this becomes game-changing. It's a bit of a cliche even that our most precious resources are human resources. Well, if we believe that, right, then we're going to start to get the maximum return on investment for the people we have. I'll also say this, as much as that one quiet person might have something to add, people who don't have much to add are going to get exposed pretty quickly.
Yep.
Quickly, right? And we're going to be able to staff and upgrade and actually get more A players on the team, as opposed to that are just doing the minimum to get by and just kind of taking up space. So that's a great way for an owner, I think, to be able to move forward is they shouldn't be doing the Sherpa work. That should be, I think, a facilitator or a consultant or a coach. And it's just why guys like us have lots of work to go down the road, right? Is we could do that hard work. We love doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the business owners, they don't want to ask the questions. They don't want to design the workshop. They just want to see the business grow. And that's what they should be doing. They should be thinking about the future and let guys like us kind of be the Sherpas that carry everything to the summit.
100%. A question from Nick Johnstone. He wanted to know, how would someone monetize those Zoom assessments with a client that has an issue with their HVAC system?
So
a little bit of an on-the-spot
that?
question, yes. How would someone monetize those Zoom assessments with a client that has an issue?
So here's actually the point is I actually wouldn't look to monetize the assessments. I would do those for free. And here's why. When you add value before you ask for anything in return, you're actually going to wind up getting more business on the back end. So for example, even as a thought leader, I'll do workshops. I'll do things like this for free. Because here's what I know. Somebody watching this goes, man, that's awesome. I could use that. Now, here's the reality is because I know you guys, I just like hanging out with you and I'd love to just connect. That part's easy. But it's easy to say yes because I also know that if I keep adding value that I'm going to get people asking me, hey, can you work with our company? The answer is of course. So let me get back to that question. If you're saying, hey, how could we monetize a customer walking us through the house? I would actually not. I would take it the opposite extreme. I would say this is a free assessment. But the reality is, if a customer actually has more of us, and we're going to get more assessments done that way. Does that make sense? I mean, you talked about recruiting earlier. It's a large number, low percentage endeavor. The more free estimates we give out, and keep in mind, we're earning trust the entire time. The connection's already here. When I assess this, when I look at this thing and go, by the way, the last guy here jerry-rigged this thing. He basically just patched it up and it was a short-term solution. We could do that again, but that's not what we do here. We fix it. We don't just mask symptoms. We fix the problem. So that's not the move you need here. Other people are going to see you. By the way, if you have a tech that looks in and goes, okay, Roto-Rooter is going to tell you that you need to replace that water heater right now. You don't. You will probably in the next couple of years, but right now that's okay. Here's what you need. You earn trust, and now all of a sudden you've got work. And when you've got the trust of that customer and you've done it for free, you've already added value before you asked for anything, you've got actually a fiercely loyal customer. Not only do you have that person, you got their neighbors, you got the 5 people that they're talking about this with today. Dude, this guy told me he saved me $1,200. Well, when that thing does break, and it's going to go, the thing's 20 years old, it's going down. They are now calling you on speed dial, and they're happy to give you the premium price, not the lowest price, the fair price. If you do outstanding work like this and you're adding value on the front end, it's easy to ask on the back end.
It goes a long way. Well, and even beyond that, I mean, when you think of the time and energy that's saved by doing that method, because most of the bigger companies, they'll have level 1, level 2, level 3 techs where, depending on what the job is, they're going to send out the guy that can just service and repair minor things,
right,
versus the experienced tech that's going to go in and problem solve this because they don't know what's wrong. Well, when you do that walkthrough, you know now which guy you're going to send right away, and you're not going to waste your time sending your level 1 out and then him calling the level 3 because he doesn't know what to do.
Bingo. What you need to do then is you assess, and you have your best quality Jedis now assessing, and you're sending the Padawans out to the easy ones, man. Hey, it's an easy fix, send it out. So now instead of dispersing the wrong resource in the wrong spot, and here's one of the things I keep talking to companies like this is your best techs, you want to treat them so well because they're hard to find, man. But if you keep your best techs and you start to elevate them and you show them an opportunity to grow with the company right now, a smart tech looks at that and knows immediately what to be able to do. Send somebody else out there that can get that thing fixed. The reality is you're probably charging the same price as whether you have a level 3 or your Jedi going out there, right? But if the Jedi is actually able to disperse that and actually sees all these things, now you're utilizing your best resource best. You're leveraging the best mind that you have over all the jobs that your company could have this week. The reality is, if you're working with your local mom and pop shops, like your small boutique HVAC companies, these are the ones that are going to benefit the fastest. It's going to take Roto-Rooter and those bigger companies years to catch up to what you guys can do right now because you guys are all in speedboats. You guys can make the change on a dime. They're all cruise ships, man. It takes that battle cruiser a while to get turned around. But you guys can make these changes immediately.
Yep.
Some of you guys might get bought out, or at least offered to get bought out.
Absolutely. You got the right systems in place.
You got it. And
100%.
again,
if you have the right systems, then you have monetized.
Systems and the people, right? So you got the systems and the people. That's the big thing there. And actually, if you say the culture, like that intellectual property, the culture that we have here, that raises the price, 7x of profits for the, that's the going rate. Actually, for us, it's going to be 10 because when you get these guys, actually you have, like my lead tech could actually be doing all of this. My best tech can probably replace your top guy right now. That's what you've got, Yeah, man, you guys are adding so much value here. Here's what I love is that you start asking great questions, you start getting some big answers, and the system has the answers, dude. Your people, they got the answers, man. And I love the work that you guys are doing. I love that you guys are reskinning what you're doing here. Here's what's fun is that we're talking HVAC, but we could be talking, dude, almost any industry and disrupting it here. It still comes down to people and adding value. What comes to mind is that Smucker's analogy, right? So Smucker's, the jam company, for years has put more jam than they advertise in their jars. So they advertise 325 mil, but they actually put in 350. Why? We're Smuckers. We're just adding value. We're going to do better than what you expect. What's advertised is 325. We're going to wildly exceed your expectations. Boy, that seems Canadian to me, man. That seems awesome. That's a recipe for success there.
Devin Haig, by the way, loves your jacket.
Oh, I knew he'd be appreciated. Come 2.5 years ago at the Stampede, I was like, it's my boy right there.
Yeah.
I love all the old Cutco people that are stepping
They
in
just
and-
come out of the woodwork, don't they? Like,
Because I tagged her with Trent Booth, and they're like, "Ooh, Cutco people, Trent Booth, what?"
Cutco.
Yeah.
He doesn't even talk recruiting. What's his deal? didn't even mention the word knife yet. I apologize for the background. I didn't even think about that ahead of time. But
Well, you're pushing and repping your product, right? So, I mean, if I was to be on a podcast like this, I would try to have something with us in the background, but my wife would get annoyed with with a sheet hanging between our office. So
my wife hates the sheet. She hates it.
You ever like shine the light on it so there's a shadow on the other side and you just start undressing slowly for her?
Not yet.
No?
But
Oh.
you know, our anniversary's coming up, so maybe we
There you
spice things
go.
up for 21 coming up Friday. Yeah, fun.
Redirect.
Record scratch transition.
Sweet. So what sparked this whole conversation was you commenting on our last post when I brought up the old question of if I could change blank daily, my life would change dramatically.
Yeah.
And you said that there was a new iteration to that. So
you know, here's what's great, Evan. I just covered it earlier. So it's one of those things that's become pretty prolific. So by the way, I love it when people actually get the concept, like get it so well that it's theirs. And I appreciate you attributing that to me. I didn't create that, obviously, but you know, good coaches raise awareness, and that question raises awareness. It happens to be a stark way to do it, though. Like, hey, if I was to do one thing daily that would dramatically change everything, what would that one thing be? And in my experience, most people, when they think about that thing, it's compelling to try it, isn't it? Like, what if I just did that one thing? And they start doing it, and then everything shifts. Everything becomes different, right? And they can actually build a lot of momentum from that. Where we've shifted that is again, raising that awareness. So let me even tell you about a social experiment. I started doing this with the kids years ago, and I'm so glad because it's yielded it's raised my awareness as a dad, which has made me just a better dad. So I'll say, hey, kids, what are we doing in our relationship that's not good, that we should stop? And they'll go, so for example, my daughter one time said, Dad, maybe you kind of yell at us sometimes. I was like, okay. Yeah, you're right. She goes, but I need it. So she actually tried to give me a pass, and I actually didn't let her. I said, no. Listen, if what you're doing requires like a 4 and I come in at 11, I said, that's not okay. So I'm actually looking for you to forgive me. So this is feedback. It was helpful because, again, we usually as dads, we kind of default to what we saw, right? So I'd come in, you know, as the Hulk, and they didn't need the Hulk. They just needed a little. So it's appropriate more for her to hold me accountable going forward. So that was an example of stop. Start, stop, keep is kind of the evolution of this. We already kind of covered this, but that's an example of stop, right? The start is, hey, what are we not doing in a relationship that could really be awesome? And my youngest daughter one time said, she goes, we could ride horses. I'm like, did you like horses? Dad, I didn't even know that riding horses was a thing in her world. I was like, good to know. All right, we can ride horses, right? And then keep. What's great about the keep question is it acknowledges that we're doing something well right now. And in recent years, just studying appreciative inquiry with the exchange group, this is one of the things that's really helped us kind of level up here is, okay, well, what's going well that we should actually double down on? So when I ask the kids this, I'd say, hey, what's something that's going well? They'd say, well, this question's helpful. I'm like, oh, that's good. Like, but the daddy-daughter dates, for example, were one of those things that are like going really well. Let's make sure we keep doing those. You know, for years at Cutco, we've had this old cliche from Jerry Otteson. He used to say, it works so well, I stopped doing it. I'm like, oh. But here's what shifts, though, right? So if we're aware of it, we actually have a shot of continuing it or even doubling down. And in my experience, any company that doubles down on its strengths is going to get more than trying to shore up what's sucking. So doubling down on what's going great usually yields way higher return on investment than trying to stop sucking at this one level. I'm going to tell a story that I learned from John Berghoff. So we mentioned him a little bit earlier. He mentioned the idea of British Airways was having a trouble with losing baggage. It sounds like Air Canada. So they brought consultants in like you guys. They said, hey, we're struggling. We're losing all these bags. It sucks. Our customers are pissed off. And the consultants said, you're asking the wrong question. They're asking, like, how do we lose less bags? And they go, well, if you lose less bags, nobody's fired up when you just hand their bag back. That's a reasonable expectation. If I give you my bag, Thad, and you give me my bag later, I don't go, oh, that's amazing. Thank you for handing me my bag. No, it's thanks for my bag back, dude. So they, over a couple of days in this room, eventually asked the question, what does an exceptional arrival experience look like? And that whistles right past what does not losing my bags look like. It's what does an exceptional arrival experience? Of course your bags are there, but like we're asking now a better question that takes us right past the least, acceptable, thing into like, what does awesome look like? What a great question then. And here's what's fascinating. In your companies, if we go, hey, what does an exceptional experience for our customers look like in our company? Do you think the techs can answer that? Do you think the people on the phone setting up the appointments can answer that? You know, one of the biggest killers right now for the HVAC companies is trying to get a hold of people because we're calling them. Well, right now, if you call my number and it's not a number of my phone, it gets automatically ghosted. I just got tired of student loans that I don't have trying to get paid off. So, like, I just ghosted everybody. So some of the companies I'm working with, I'm like, well, what does texting them look like? Hey, this is John reaching back to your inquiry about HVAC. If you can talk, let me know. Because we want to talk to them, but we need permission now. This has shifted. This is one of the greatest challenges right now. How many hours, how many calls does it take to get a customer to call us back to schedule the initial appointment? Hey, why don't we whistle right past that? What do customers want to do right now? My wife right now would rather take a turning fork to the eye than call and order pizza because she can go on her app or even on Nick's Pizza, local guy.com, and order it online. She doesn't have to deal with a person. She can get exactly what she wants across. She doesn't have to, she can spell it. I mean, point being that there are technological advances that at some point, if we don't pay attention to, we're behind. We can't get a hold of people. That's the wrong question. How do we get a hold of more people is the wrong question. How do we make it easier to have customers get answers right now? And if one of those is like, if you'd like a call, text us, give us your phone number here so we can text them and say, hey, listen, Sally's available to book you right now. Can you pick up? And she hits a button that calls, and or even better, they self-schedule for the tech to come by. And it's never been easier for us to find technology where self-scheduling is a thing, and it's confirmed. It needs to be confirmed. It's not just a one-way thing. We get to say yes before we commit to it. But, I mean, that closes a ton of gaps. That reduces the amount of hours that we lose. That reduces the amount of customers not being there, et cetera. It's an exciting time, guys. It really is.
Evan, don't worry. I was taking notes.
I heard it.
you heard the click of the keyboards. I was writing it down old school. I'm just like, you know what? I can type a lot faster than I can write with a pen. So I'm just
sorry.
type.
This is recorded. I can rewatch it.
Also true. Also true. So.
I absolutely love this concept and this idea of asking better questions. And it's, I even brought it up to Thad as I was reading The One Thing again. And it's probably the 11th time I've read the book now. But the old FM Alexander quote.
And not the last one, by the way. You're going to read it again.
Oh, God, no. It's a 2-time-a-year book to go back, read through the notes, read through the highlighted sections, and check in, right? Yeah. And I do pop into the podcast every once in a while, but they bring up the quote all the time, FM Alexander. You don't decide your future, decide your habits decide your futures. And so I texted Dad and I was like, hey, here's my new habit for this next 66 days Jeff Woods, this was his habit that he had brought in as well, asking a question when I normally would have made a statement. There you go. Right? And just getting in that habit of constantly looking for what's a question that I can ask right now. So what's a better question? When the HVAC owners start to have like guided facilitation, a conversation, any of the answers that emerge that the owner likes, and frankly probably would have come up on his own or not, but so sometimes it's not what they would have thought of and it's better, that's great. But even if it is something that he could have said, there's immediate buy-in. Yep. It's implied. Like this person that's selling it already knows what that is. You and I both know the cool uncle that comes back from university could say the same thing that Dad's been saying this entire time. Cool uncle says it's like, well, it's amazing. I'm like, you're killing me. Point being that when you ask the question and the answer emerges, there's no sale required after that. It's already theirs. And better, you get immediate confirmation as a coaching leader that they know what it is that we're trying to emerge here. They know what it is. How do I know? Because they're sharing it with me. And even better, they're using language I wouldn't have used, so they're using the language that they understand. They get what this is.
and it's immediate. So that's where this coaching leader concept really starts to come in, and it never been more important for you guys to be in this type of a space to help those companies get unlocked with that. Because the reality is there's no amount of talent that, if we're not utilizing that talent, can move us forward as a company. Important work.
Jackson, by the way, Evan says hi.
Jackson Evans?
No, just Jackson. Jackson says hi.
Jackson,
Oh,
hey, Jackson.
my son?
Yeah, your son, Jackson.
Hey, Dad.
He's supposed to be in school right now.
It's through Vanessa, so I mean, maybe they're
okay.
maybe
Maybe he's getting the X-ray.
Hey, Dad.
Well, no, maybe they're learning about leveling up with Trent, Thaddeus, and Evan.
I love it.
It's probably a more valuable lesson than math or English or something like that. So,
guys, I appreciate the time here today. I've actually got to jump out pretty soon here. Is there any way we can tie this off here and feel good about it in the next 5 or so?
We could end it off right now if you really want.
Dad, I apologize. I've just got a date scheduled with my super hot wife of 21 years that if I don't go, I'm going to be in trouble for. I overcommitted, but with a 5:30 Eastern time appointment here. Here's what I'm asking, though, guys. I don't feel like we're done. I would love to come back to the podcast again and just connect with you guys. Actually, here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to ask you guys just about what you're doing. Like maybe even, I don't know, at some point just the deep dive in terms of how you're servicing clients and stuff, and what might shift is when somebody's asking you, it's different than just kind of selling it. But the reality is, I believe that you guys are doing great work, and just some of the questions that you're asking kind of indicates just a level of understanding that I'm hoping the people you're serving really fully get, that you guys are bringing a ton to the table that can really bring game-changing solutions to their companies, not short-term, but I'm saying like for generations to come. You guys are asking the right questions and doing things the right way, man. I'm just grateful for you guys serving well in that community, man. It's awesome.
100%. I'll circle back to to what we do, because I don't know if Michelle is saying Booth.
Oh, that's Michelle Ducharme. She definitely is.
Yeah, Michelle Ducharme. Booth. I thought she was saying both. I'm like, yeah, we can have him back on again, totally, and
yes,
we can answer the question. But yes, and yes,
that's
and.
a Booth.
Michelle and I've been doing that for 25 years, by the way. I'd say douche. Say Booth. Yours is a little more politically correct than mine, unfortunately. So.
Slightly.
Yeah, a little bit. So
it's like mine, but I can't type it. It's good.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what we do is, we take an honest and transparent approach to things. One of the reasons that we got onto this space is that there's so many business owners out there, and it wasn't just, in our conversations with HVAC owners, it was business owners across the board. We're having such a frustration with people that are doing their digital marketing for them because they've paid somebody money and it just, they didn't get the results, or they paid somebody money and then they fucked off with their money, right? And they didn't get anything, and they have this jaded taste in their mouth. And that's not all of the people that are in our space, but with any industry there's good and there's bad, right? Just in the HVAC, there's good techs, there's bad techs, right?
Yep.
There's good companies, there's bad companies. And so our agency was born out of frustration. But we also take an honest and transparent approach to what it is that we do. So we're going to be upfront. We're going to have those conversations. Heck, even if it means a tough conversation with the client, we're not going to hide behind this veil of secrecy, on that. And so it's building in the systems to be able to help a business level up, to be able to take a mid-size HVAC company into, 7 figures, into being a territory king. We just happen to do it with website search engine optimization, Google ads, and Facebook ads.
Yeah. I'd be curious, though, if I was to just go deeper with you guys, that the reality is that human connection seems to still be the thing that you guys were great at back in the day when we were running together at Cutco days, that you guys are still great at. So, like, as much as it's search engine optimization, in reality, you guys have to be smart. You have to be able to deliver, right, in the technical aspects of what you guys are promoting. But there's a lot of people in that space. Where you guys are differentiated, where you guys are unique, is that you've kept that human connection, that you guys have kept that authentic, genuine, like, and moving people forward. The reality is, I'm willing to bet that the owners that are connecting with you guys, like, you guys might be the best guys that they know. And in many ways, you guys become business partners with them of how to move things forward. And that's where I celebrate what you guys have done. And part of that's being vector trained, but part of that is you guys were awesome before you even got here. The bottom line is, celebrating more alumni doing great work in outstanding sectors. And guys, I'm just I'm going to wave the pom poms all the way to you guys becoming super millionaires if you're not already. So, and the reality is because you're helping so many people along the way. It's important work, and the reality is there's not a lot of that work being done in Canada. So you guys are in a very unique spot right now, and I'm as an expatriate living in the U.S. here for 16 years, just celebrating outstanding work going on at home there. So, hey guys, never been more proud to know you guys than today. Thank you so much for the time and space to share for a little bit, go on some rants, and get distracted from a presidential election here in 2020.
Shed some light onto that. So
Well,
get some light away from that.
Totally. Before you go, Trent, where can people find you if they want to find more content from you?
Hey,
and
would
learn
love
more
to
from you?
connect. Love to connect. I'm on Twitter at Trent Booth. Fortunately, I'm facebook.com/Trent Booth. On LinkedIn, Trent Booth. Evan Hoffman can tell you that I'm not the only Trent Booth, but I am the one that has the prime Trent Booth name pretty much across the board. So if you Google Trent Booth, I'm going to pretty much bubble to the front. There are other Trent Booths out there, but look for a picture of me, maybe a picture of me and my wife, and you should be good to go. Would love to connect here, guys. But the reality is, you guys are doing so much great work here, man. It's just a pleasure to connect with you and your crowd and your group, man. You guys got an exciting tribe going on here, man. This is thank you so much for inviting me again to be a part of this, man. I hope this isn't our last time connecting, and I'm going to reciprocate. My intention next time is rant less and ask great questions more on our next connection.
All good. By the way, Rob Chung says he could listen to you read the phone book. Spreading the love.
The microphone compresses everything. It's helpful.
One last thought, then I do the wrap up of it. Anyways, I'll drop your links into the comments of all of where we post it. I'll give that to you so you can share that out as well. The big why of why we want to do this. I mean, one of Evan's why is his wife and his family. My why, my wife and the family that we're going to build and the life that we're going to build. At the same time, it's the life that we're going to be building for our clients, for the owners, for the techs that they're working with them, for the employees that are working with them, and that whole trickle down effect that's going to result of us leveling up their game is a huge why for us and a huge driver for us. It isn't just about dollar signs. It's about the life that we can create for us and our company and our clients. There we go. Sorry, too many whiskeys, stumbling on my words.
No, you're describing a concept called altruism, right? And that is being wildly sold out for somebody else's success. And even when I heard that was a new word to me, about 10 years ago. And when I heard it, I'm like, that's amazing. And I see you guys living that out. I see you guys being wildly sold out. The reality is there's tremendous significance that'll come to you guys, but you're not doing it for the significance or the recognition or even the dollars. The reality is the good work and helping people is why you guys succeeded, again, back at the knife thing, and why you guys are succeeding in the space that you're in now. The reality is I hope you guys understand that whatever space you guys step into, because that's who you guys are, and then revealing yourself leads to the best version of you in that job, you guys are going to be great in this space and others to come here. So again, grateful to be associated with you guys, man. This has been a real treat today, guys, to connect, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on, Trent.
Appreciate you, man.
Can't wait.
So anybody that is watching on Facebook, obviously you can follow Evan and I or Trent on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, but I don't post anything on there very often. If you're watching on YouTube, there's going to be a big circle that shows up that says OPM. Obviously hit the subscribe button. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, bud.
Salute.